thoughts around sustainability. If you have skill sets, what do you need to do to keep skill sets working right? Practice, right? Drill, practice. So, so sustainable preparedness is really what we want to go after, isn't it? And as we move into some of these themes, you'll see that. I'm not going to spend the whole time. In fact, I'm only going to spend a very, very small segment of this time talking about spiritual things, but it's my belief that spiritual preparedness is the most important type of preparedness. And spiritual preparedness is talked about all through Scripture. My favorite text on preparedness in general is Ezekiel 38:7. Be prepared and stay prepared, you and all your hosts that are assembled about you, and be a guard for them. Think about that for a second. If you're prepared and your neighbor isn't, what about that thought? Be a guard for them or other family members. So, interesting. All right. So now there's a whole bunch of reasons why we want to prepare. And I'm going to go through these super, super quick. I'm just going to read them off. I can't put them on the screen, but so, and you could probably list your own list, but there's 3 pages of these, so let's go. Isn't wrong seeming to be made right, and right wrong? Everything's flipped upside down right today. Good people are accused of being terrorists. I'm a domestic terrorist. You probably are too.
Hi, Larry.
Right?
Welcome to the club.
The rule of law is being ignored, and worse yet, criminalized. Okay? These aren't a surprise to any of you. Constitution is ignored and done away with. They're really trying to do that. Federal law enforcement agencies have been already criminalized, and they will continue. The mainstream media and social media giants are used as a propaganda machine for the left. 100%. Increase in violence and crime. War with Russia by supporting the Ukraine and NATO. Stupidest thing in the world.
Yeah.
War with China over Taiwan. Cyber attacks are growing in intensity and breadth and frequency. EMP attacks are on the verge. I believe have already happened in small regional areas, but not like countrywide yet.
Most likely testing.
Might not be long.
Test runs.
Yep.
Testing position.
Supply chain issues, gone mad. Attack on the dollar. Hello. Attack on the First and Second Amendments. Engineered inflation. Right? Purposeful inflation. Attempts to destroy our country from within. Duh. Moves toward communism and a one-world government. World Economic Forum, United Nations, World Health Organization. I'm sorry if you like one of those organizations, it's okay with me, but I don't. Whoop, back one. And then what about human and child trafficking? Unbelievable. Why do you think the southern border hasn't been closed off? They need those children for lots of reasons that I'm not even going to talk about. How about the purchase of farmland by billionaires so they can mess with our food? Paying farmers to destroy their crops, and they can actually make more money that way. I just read it again. Wheat farmers, they're tilling them under and spraying them because the government's giving them more money than they could make if they sold the crops. How about the drought and water diversion? Geoengineering, you're familiar with that term, right? All you have to do is look up in the sky on any given day and you'll see that it's real. Destruction of food processing plants. There were only 10 in 2021. In 2022, there was over 100 food processing plants that were destroyed. Oh, it's just a short in the wiring.
Do you have any data for years previous to that, just out of
I don't.
comparison?
I didn't even start noticing till
Yeah.
it started
I
becoming
keep
obvious.
hearing the numbers, and I'm always curious: is it really bigger, or does it just sound bigger? I mean, it
That's
seems
a,
like it must
that's
be
a good
bigger.
question because I don't really know. It could have been happening all along, and maybe we just started hearing about it. I don't know.
Right.
But the way
It just sounds like a lot.
the way the food crisis is heading, it would match with what we see in other areas that it's increasing. But I can't prove that. Will the next pandemic be monkeypox or some other created, emphasis on that word, superbug? And will it also have an mRNA vax that was engineered for that bug? And we talked about geoengineering. How about the increase in earthquakes? Solar storms. Solar storms have been getting bigger and badder. Forest fires. Did you know, you probably remember hearing about the Santa Rosa fire, Santa Rosa, California in 2017. So I have relatives in that area, and the next year I was down there, and you saw some of this. If you were watching if you get your news from reliable sources, you probably saw this, but fire would completely consume a building, and 6 feet away, arborvitae trees were not touched. That doesn't happen in nature, okay? If the heat was so hot that it melted everything metal, you could see mag wheels in a puddle. How come the arborvitaes didn't light off? Just saying. Yeah.
So one of the things that I've observed is most of what you have shared, what I would consider to be inorganic expressions.
Okay.
And the one that got me into the world of preparedness was basically knowing really well and understanding the solar cycles that are occurring all the time.
Yeah.
And I've been part of a group called Suspicious Observers for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
You can find them. Every day there's a report on the sun, and we are so overdue for a major solar eruption, and people are unaware of. I get text messages because I'm part of it. I get them. Anytime there's an M or an X class flare, I'm aware. I know it's coming.
Right.
But most everybody's unaware of that.
We have 2 or 3 friends that watch that website as well.
Yeah. And they get great information on there.
It is.
You know, there's a whole climate change.
It's
all
amazing.
the deceptions around climate change that we've been fed over the years and stuff. Yeah.
Tell everybody the website.
Suspicious Observers.
Okay. Write that down in your phone or something. Okay, moving on. So the next thing I want to share with you is what I call preparedness themes. Now these are areas that you should prepare in. Okay. So as I go through this list, we won't spend a lot of time on it because this is intended to be a 1-hour lecture that I started 15 or 20 minutes late. And also it's intended to just be an overview and give people some ideas on how to prepare. I'll get to that in a few minutes. So preparedness themes. I already mentioned spiritual preparedness. We'll talk about that again. How about food? The 3 basics, right? Food, water, shelter. How about power? We're going to have a need for power. Up until now, we've only had short periods of grid down, right? I expect, and I'm sure you expect, greater periods of grid down up to and maybe including a permanent grid down scenario. That's a pretty scary thought. I hope that you've thought about that in your preps. We'll go into that a little bit more. How about health, fitness, medicines, and first aid kits, an area that you could go down to if you wanted to be prepared for medical emergencies or your own health. What about emergency preparedness? And that's a broad one. How many types of emergencies are there? There's a lot of them. But this would be, oh man, help me. Anything that's an emergency. Could be a car crash. It could be forest fire. It could be, I don't know. That list could be really long. Important to think about, but How about emergency communication? MCOM. Have you thought about when the cell towers aren't going to work anymore and the landlines don't work, how are you going to get in touch with the people you need to get in touch with? How are they going to get in touch with you?
Are there convenient and cheap systems like that we could?
It depends on how far away the people are that you want to talk to, but so
You have to relay if it's any distance.
yeah, on my checkoff list, emergency communication took me into the ham radio area, and I became a general technician, and then extra class.
One
Yeah.
thing we have done is to make a pre-plan.
Good.
So with the family members.
Good.
We may not be able to reach people across the country, but our local nucleus
Yeah.
of family members, we
Yeah.
have a plan that if something should go down, we're going to
Absolutely.
go to a specific point
Yep.
through various ways of getting there.
Yeah.
get
And
together.
how are you going to get the word out if you don't have some way of
You
communication?
have to pre-plan.
You have to pre-plan it, but you have to have some way of getting in touch, whether it be a CB radio, an FRS or GMRS radio, or a ham radio, referred to as an HT, handheld transceiver. Get them in different watts. Bofang makes a bunch of them. They're pretty reliable, except that the FCC has forced them to limit the frequencies that you can program them with. Used to be they were wide open.
You can crack them.
You can. There's ways to do that. There's probably plenty of YouTubes on how to do it.
If you transmit too much, though, they can find you.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
It's always
so
somebody.
You have to be careful when you.
There's always somebody listening.
Always.
So anyway, moving on. How about home security? At 1 o'clock, I'm going to be right here talking about home security, how to make your home, take it from a soft target to a hard target. You don't want the criminals to look at your home as an easy target, as a soft target. You want them to pass your place by and hit somebody down the street. So how can you do that? We're going to talk about that at 1 o'clock. How about situational awareness as an area of preparedness? Hey, Joel, good to see you. Have you ever studied situational awareness? If you've heard of Gun Sight in Arizona or Front Sight that used to be in Nevada, you were taught the color code of mental awareness, and recommend that you know something about that. It's a tiered level of being aware of what's going on around you so that nothing surprises you. And it's a wonderful way to prevent being attacked or prevent getting into trouble by not watching. You know, if you're unaware of your surroundings, then you're a target. So you want to be able to know about that. So how about self-defense? That's an area of preparedness, isn't it? So how far do you want to take that? Get trained. Don't just buy a gun and some ammo and think you're trained. You are not, okay? In fact, I don't want to be around you if you're that person, all right? I want to be around people that are trained, and mostly trained when not to draw your weapon. That's more important than when to draw it or how to draw it, how to shoot accurately. They're all important, but it's a skill set that I think is critical.
Never point a gun at somebody unless you intend to kill them.
There you go. See? Yep. So the 4 universal gun rules, those of you that pack, you know what those are. I'm not going to spend time on them now, but just to say self-defense is important. Now, my friend Jason's here. He's going to do a class on teaching some physical self-defense moves for women. And I think that's this afternoon. He's also doing a class on clearing your house using CQC methods. He's very well trained. If you can get his classes, do it. He's very knowledgeable. All right. How about financial preparedness? I was afraid you were going to say that.
Yeah, they're making that one hard right now.
I don't like where that path is going. Neither do you. But what their goal is to have America be like China. where you have a social credit score, and every transaction is electronic, so that they can shut you off. They know every penny you spend, etc., etc. What they don't know about Americans is that we're more resilient than that. We know how to barter, okay? I know how to go downtown or over to my friend's house, and he needs a loaf of bread that my wife just baked, and I might need, right, something that he has. So this is going to keep us alive in the days ahead, and I think it's important to know that there's going to come a time, probably within the next year, when currency, as we know it, will cease to exist. So there's not enough time to go over any one of these topics in depth, but look at getting out of debt. Look at investing in some precious metals, to include gold, silver, and lead. And then have a means of delivering the lead, of course. Just joking on that, but you know what I mean. So
It's a cordless hole punch.
that's it. And so on that, I would just want to say, you know, silver is going to be probably more important because it's in smaller denominations, so you can do more with it. Gold, as the price of gold goes up, what are you going to buy, a house? Like, you know, gold's going to be worth so much that unless you have the little 10th ounce gold pieces, and even those will be more than, you know, who knows?
I have a bunch of cards with actual, like a little grain of gold.
Those are so cool.
Little,
Yeah, I saw.
on those.
Yeah.
Grain,
Yeah.
grain.
So there's ways to do it, but definitely don't bypass financial preparedness. Evacuation preparedness. Up in this area, it seems like every year we have worse forest fires than the year before. And I don't know where every one of you live, but if you're in the trees, especially, you probably should think about being prepared for evacuation. Do you have a go bag? Do you have a plan? From the time that you need to evacuate, can you be in your car and gone in under 15 minutes? Need to think about it.
Is that more important for city folk or country folk? Anybody.
I think forest fire, I mean, fire can be a killer anywhere.
There's other reasons to bug out in the city.
True, good
Yes.
point. Thank you for saying that. Yep. So, and I think the other thing Jason's going to talk about is how to build a bug out bag today. If you don't have one, try to get to that lecture. He's very good at it. His puts mine to shame. Just saying. All right, how about emergency transportation? What if your car doesn't work anymore? Yep, what about your feet? How far can you walk? We used to have horses. Bicycles, I think, are going to be sell for a premium. I think bicycle. If you need to get into a business, a small home business, go down to all the secondhand stores and buy out all their bicycles. Bring them home, true up the wheels, put new, tubes and tires on them, because bicycles are going to be a premium item. When most of the cars don't work, either because of an EMP or the fuel isn't being delivered anymore because either they stopped deliveries or the diesel trucks, they're endless.
Might not even be able to pump the fuel when the EMP happens. So
Not if they're electric
it's gonna
pumps.
fry all the
Yep.
boards and
So anyway, bug out bags, we already mentioned. How about get home bags? If I'm downtown shopping and something happens to my car. You guys hear the story about the Walmart parking lot in Colville this last week?
No.
3 cars burned up next to a truck, and the rumor was that the truck's brakes overheated and caught these 3 cars on fire, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, something's wrong with this picture.
But the truck didn't burn up.
The whole thing was it was weird, and we don't have time, I know, but think about it, you might not be able to use your car to get back home, so do you have enough supplies with you to make the trip? 2 or 3 days worth of...
a lot of times those are in the car.
Right.
So if
Well,
the car burns up, you're kind of
There
in
you
trouble.
go.
But
That's true. All right.
yeah, I've had times where I couldn't get home from work and I've had to stay the night because of a bad accident or whatever.
That happens, yeah.
Yeah. So it's
How
nice
about-
to have that stuff.
How about nuclear preparedness? Anyway, again, we could
live
spend
near a submarine base.
we could spend a week on each one of these, but we don't have time. I'm just to list them, and there's others. But okay, moving on. So ways to prepare. I'm going to list 6 ways to get started. Most of you have already started the preparedness journey, but I would suggest number 1 is scenario-based planning, and I'll go over what I mean by that in just a minute. Number 2, study preparedness books, blogs, YouTube University videos, learn from other people. There's always somebody that's ahead of you in the path. Okay, remember that. So why start over when you can, learn from somebody else's mistakes or learn from somebody else's videos? Number 3, once you learn things, implement what you've learned. You could watch YouTube till the cows come home, but unless you actually take the information and do something with it, you got to start somewhere, right? No matter who you are, even if you've never even thought about preparedness before, you can start somewhere. Start small. You can't do it all in 1 month or one week. You can't. There's too much. It's too enormous. So, but anyway, implement what you've learned. Number 4, practice the skills that you've learned. Keep up on those skills. Number 5, continue learning and improving your preparedness. If you've been in preparedness, if you've been on a preparedness journey for 25 years, your mindset is not, okay, I'm there, I made it. Your mindset is always looking for new ideas, right? Like, so I've prepared in this area, but here on these grounds, somebody's going to know more about that subject than I do. I want to get with them. I want to know what they know so I can improve my game. All right, and number 6, surround yourself with like-minded, trustworthy friends. Might take some vetting, but none of us is an island. None of us can do it alone. None of us can go it alone. You're going to need support. You're going to need some people to work with you. You're going to need to, let's say you're holed up at somebody's house. Things have gotten so bad and it's a Mad Max, You're going to need sentries, right, for night duty. You got to rotate through that. Have everybody read the book Patriots? James Wesley Rowles? That name ring a bell? Okay. Go get that book. It's awesome. I've read it 4 times. All right. So let's go back and look at scenario-based training. What do I mean by that? So the way to start with that is think of an LAE, a life-altering event, and then start asking yourself, what would happen? If that happened, what's the chain of events that would follow? So let's just role play for a minute. So what if on a certain day you wake up in the morning and the electricity's gone off during the night, and you don't know whether it's just your house or all the neighbors that are on your feed, or whether it's the whole town or whether it's the whole county. You don't know yet, right? But you know yours is down. So when your electricity goes down, what are the steps you need to do to continue living that day? Do you have backup electricity? Do you have a solar electric system? Do you have a generator? What have you put into the system so that you can carry on when the grid goes down? And then let's say that it includes town. So what's going to happen downtown when the grid goes down? The gas pumps aren't going to probably work, right? They're run on electricity. The stores, all the transactions are electronic, so the cash registers and all that's not going to work, right? What else? Help me.
And the cashiers don't know math, so they can't figure it by the hand.
No, they don't. And hardly anybody carries cash, so basically transactions grind to a halt. So we know from like Hurricane Katrina and other experiences like that, what happens in the first 24 to 48 to 36 hours, right? So we could go down the list of okay, everybody gets scared out of their mind. People that only have, typically 2 to 3 days worth of food in their house are going to freak out because they're not going to be able to feed their kids. Follow those scenarios out and play them in your mind and ask, what will I do? How will I respond? Am I going to be prepared for that when it happens? So that's what I'm talking about when I refer to scenario-based planning, okay? Is to take an event, play it out in your mind. What would happen if this happened? What would happen? And am I prepared for that? And what would I do to get prepared for that? Okay? So, how many have generators? Yeah, right on. How many have solar? Right on, right on. That's a great group.
I have one tomato plant.
That counts.
It's a solar generator.
It's like 4 inches high now. I'm just trying to grow it in my house and see if I can get some food. But I do have a question about Katrina, because the first thing they did in that is they sent the military around to take all the guns, confiscate the guns in Katrina, which I thought was, it seems like they were doing it because, we don't want people shooting each other and all that, but I think that was a big mistake, and I'm wondering what might happen,
How many would give up their guns if they were asked?
It's tough because it matter of life or death, right?
I'm just saying.
Head first, yeah.
Boating accident.
Sorry,
Sorry, I don't have
yeah.
them anymore.
I used to love guns, but all mine were lost in a boating
They
accident.
were all stolen.
Everyone does the same thing.
All right. So
That's what's all been voting.
let me finish up real quick here, and then we'll turn the next presenters here. Hi, Courtney.
Hey.
So at home you have no lights, no water, if you have a well. But even if you're on city water, the city wells probably aren't going to be pumping either. And so think about that. No water. All right. No heating, no cooking. Your refrigerator and freezer aren't working. Right now, I understand because of my question that most of you have already planned for that, and so you're ready. Yay, good for you. But not everybody's thought about that. So
There's also the question that keeps bugging me in my neighborhood is that my generators, it's not quiet at all. It just bugs me.
there you go.
I feel like I'm painting a big target on my back.
Yeah.
I
And
actually had somebody
that's an
pull
important
into my driveway and back up next to my generator, and my neighbor ended up scaring them off at gunpoint. But it was
They're gonna.
It was held down up to a concrete slab. It was a bigger generator, but
getting ready to
they saw
steal
my house lit up and they
Yeah.
backed in and were
Oh,
going to
yeah.
try to steal my generator.
yeah, so think about blackout curtains or blackout for your windows at night and so on. Yeah, comment back here.
Yeah, so I think one of the things you have to do with your plans is you have to modify them and focus on what you need,
Yep,
not what you want.
that's right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if you have a situation where you don't have power, but you have a generator, do you really need to run that generator and attract attention?
Right,
Or is it just something you're used to? It makes
Right.
you comfortable.
right.
And this is where I'm going to disagree a little bit on scenario planning.
Okay.
I think it needs to be about needs planning.
Okay, good.
And you sit there and ask yourself,
Yep.
if I didn't have this,
Yeah,
what would I do? Regardless of the scenario that causes it to
Right.
not be available.
right.
If I don't have this,
Yeah,
what's the impact? And how do I mitigate?
yeah. No, your point is well taken. Even in scenario-based planning, though, it helps to put tennis shoes on it
I hear you.
if you're thinking of it, and then come back to the plan. What do you absolutely need? Which is a great point. I'm glad you brought it up. So, we've gone through that. Let's see. Okay. Short term, long term. Obviously, those are important considerations. I want to spend just a couple minutes now talking about going back to what I said at the beginning, that it's my firm belief that spiritual preparedness is more important than all the others. You can have all the other stuff. You can have enough guns and ammo, you can have enough food, you can have a way to get water out of the ground, you can have a way to stay warm, you can have all that stuff, bug out bags, EDC, you can have all of that. And if you don't have spiritual preparedness, where will it get you? Now, why do you need spiritual preparedness? Let me give you several reasons. Number one, in a life-altering event, you could lose your life, right? Wouldn't it be comforting to know what happens next? Okay. Where will you spend eternity is another way to say it.
We can make our plans, but God guides our steps.
That's what the Bible says. How about trust in divine power gives you peace during tribulation?
Gives you strength not to give up in the hard times too.
There you go. So there's good reasons for spiritual preparedness. I think it's vitally important to know that the King of Kings is still on his throne. Right. Let me share with you 3 thoughts on how to prepare spiritually if this is a new concept to you. And I'm not trying to be preachy here. I'm just sharing with you from my heart to yours, okay? First and foremost, accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior and ask Him to forgive your sins. Number 2, spend time daily reading and studying the Bible with the guidance of the Holy Spirit. We've been promised He will guide us into all truth. And third, develop an ongoing conversation with this man Jesus. Take Him into everything in your life. Walk through every day with Him. It's a great thing to do. All right, we are almost out of time. What I'm going to do next, let me look. 9:48. I have 12 minutes. In the next 12 minutes, I want to share with you a tool that I built called a preparedness audit, and then I'm going to hand you a copy of it and send it home with you. It's only one man's view of 25 items that are important to consider when you're preparing. I want to go over some of those with you real quick, and then I'll hand you out a handout over everything I've gone over today, and we'll be done. We talk about a supply of water. We talk about food. We talk about power. The audit talks about generating electricity if there is a power outage. Medications, if you're on medications, do you have a 6-month supply, or a 9-month supply, or a 3-month supply? Important considerations, especially if you're a diabetic, and those medicines mean the difference between life and death. Have any of you read 1 Second After? Yeah.
Good book.
Remember the daughter?
Yep.
That died because she was a diabetic. So it's not a small issue. It's very important. Think about it.
Crazy over that.
Yeah?
Real crazy over medicine and hunger.
That's right.
Real crazy.
Yeah.
Hunger
And a
can
lot of
do
people-
things to people.
Makes you do
They do.
crazy things.
That's right. Especially if your kids are starving
Yep.
and they're saying, "Dad, I'm hungry, Dad."
That's hungry for eye. That'll make you do nutty stuff.
Bingo. A topic that we don't have time to even talk about, but an important topic, is if you're of a Christian faith, and the Bible teaches us to share with others, how do you do that after the collapse and still provide for your family's safety and security? That's not an easy question.
No, it's a very hard question.
But I throw it out because it's important to think about it, because you probably will face it. Think about it now rather than at the time, and maybe you'll make it through that better. Okay. How about if you're stranded? Do you have get-home bags? We talked about that. What about communications again? What if the banks are closed or your accounts are frozen? Do you have enough cash or precious metals to survive for a month, 6 months, a year? Are you out of debt or working hard to achieve a debt-free status? The little bit of money that you have goes a lot further the fewer bills you have. I just noticed that. It's kind of crazy. All right.
Pretty good logic.
Shoot, my screen went blank. that means it's time for me to give you guys a handout and call it good. So let me grab some handouts for you. Can I ask you to only take one per family so that I have enough for the classes tomorrow? So let me pass that around. If you take one of this is the preparedness audit. Take that with you, and then.
We need some more information about that.
Oh yes. Yeah, that's important. And here's a handout with all my notes from this presentation too. Take one of those, one per family, please. So very quickly, the color code of mental preparedness is condition white is where you're unaware of your surroundings. This is like any of us that would be walking down the sidewalk in town and we're texting while we're walking and we have no idea who's around the corner, who's following us, who's across the street. That's condition white. That jumps up to condition yellow, which is a low level of awareness, but now you're not in your phone. You're actually walking with your head up like you're going somewhere, and you're watching everything in your peripheral vision. You look, you look, you look, you see a car go by, you look at the person, you're aware of what's going on around you. Really important, because the next level is condition orange. Condition orange is where you're in condition yellow, and all of a sudden you see something that's out of the ordinary, that's not right. And you know it's not right. You may have to watch it to further discern what's really going on, but all of a sudden, hey, that guy back there's got a spear, right? Oh.
Get him.
Couldn't resist, Joel. But anyway, something's out of the ordinary in your surroundings. Like when we go into a restaurant, my wife Betty already knows that I need to sit with my back to the wall so I can watch the door. Okay, just saying. Trouble comes in the door, I want to be the first to know, right? So that's condition yellow transitioning to orange is where you notice something out of the ordinary. Now, after orange is condition red. Condition red is what you saw that was out of the ordinary, that was not right, has just escalated another step. Somebody pulls out a gun, whatever it is, or somebody across the restaurant or across the street starts yelling, and you go, wait, that's not normal. And so now you're focused on the problem, and you're ready to respond, either by escape, that's the preferred way, get the heck out of Dodge, right? Or if you're packing and you know the rules of the land, you're prepared to do what it takes to protect yourself and your family or other innocent lives, right? Okay. So that's the transition from orange to red. And that's kind of the color code. Can you kind of get an idea of how that works? There's a lot more to it than I can go over right now. I don't have time, but it's worth studying because it can save your life. It can keep you alive because you're more aware of what's happening. So.
To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.